Welcome back to the Motivated Mind Zone. Glad to have you here. Today we are diving deep into something that, well, it looks like simple math on the surface, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's actually much more about complex psychology and strategy,
All right.
money.
That's right.
Specifically, we're going to try and unpack why $10,000, $100,000, and $1 million feel like completely different
Mm.
currencies.
Mm.
And maybe more importantly, why the strategy that gets you to that first milestone, it might actually, well, sabotage your efforts trying to reach the last one.
It's really the surprising truth about how wealth accumulation works, isn't it? Our sources, they really emphasize that this journey, it's just not linear. Not at
All
all.
right.
The jump between these major milestones, and we're calling them the rule of three financial stages for this discussion, it isn't just about adding zeros. That's the easy part, almost.
And just typing it in.
Exactly. It actually demands a total evolution of like your financial character, your skills, and even how you think about managing risk. It all has to change.
And I think most people fall into that trap, right? They think, okay, I saved a bit, I got a $10 K. If I just do more of that same thing, cut costs harder, save more
You
aggressively,
eventually hit a million.
yeah, it seems logical.
But the research, the sources we looked at, they basically say that approach pretty much guarantees you'll get stuck. Probably somewhere between that $10 and $100 K mark.
Because the strategy has to change. The very function of the money itself changes at each level. What it represents, what it can do for you.
Okay, so that's our mission today then. We want to equip you, the listener, with maybe the right strategic blueprint, or at least the right questions to ask for whichever stage you find yourself in right now.
Exactly. We're going to define the mindset needed, the skills that become crucial, and maybe most importantly, the traps. The specific traps waiting at that $10 K level, the $100 K level, and then the big one, the $1 million level.
We're trying to go beyond just the basics here, get into the actual architecture of building wealth.
Let's do it. All right, let's jump right in. We have to start where everyone must begin, right? That first foundational building block of any kind of financial security. So when you're starting from scratch, maybe you're wrestling with some credit card debt or just haven't saved before. That first critical step, the one you just can't skip, is reaching $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
We're calling this the survival and discipline stage. And I think it's fair to say if you don't master this stage, the next ones, they're basically impossible.
That's absolutely right. The core identity here, it's simple, but it's really profound. It's all about control, pure control.
Not getting rich yet.
Not at all. The primary goal isn't wealth generation, not at this point. It's about proving, maybe to yourself more than anyone, through just sheer consistency and commitment, that you are the master of your money.
Instead of the other way around.
Exactly. That you're not a victim of your circumstances or, those immediate impulses we all have. For so many people, getting that first $10,000 in savings, especially if it's free of high-interest debt, that's the very first time in their adult life they feel any kind of real financial agency.
And why does that feel so, well, life-changing? You hear people talk about it.
Because it's tangible proof.
I
It's
know.
right there in the account. Proof of consistency. It means you had to build the foundational habit for all future wealth, which is
Mhm.
simply the ability to live below your means consistently.
Right. It means that bank balance isn't just like a temporary holding spot for the next round of bills.
Yeah, exactly. It's a growing number. It's stable.
Yeah.
And you are the one actively contributing to it. You see it go up because of your actions.
So the work at this stage, it's mostly behavioral then, less about fancy investment strategies.
Oh, almost purely behavioral engineering, yeah. It's very discipline-based because, let's face it, the numbers are still relatively small. Your growth towards $10 K, it comes almost entirely from plugging leaks.
Finding those unnecessary expenses.
Cutting them out, learning how to budget effectively, really budget, not just track spending and developing, like a zero-tolerance policy for what they call lifestyle creep.
Ah, yes. The silent killer of savings goals.
Totally. You get that first raise or a little bonus, the temptation is huge to upgrade something. But at this stage, that money doesn't go to a nicer dinner or a new gadget. It goes straight towards hitting that $10K goal, period.
That concept, delayed gratification, it sounds simple,
Mm-hmm.
but it's incredibly hard in practice. It feels central here.
It is central. The sources really stress this. At the $10 stage, you have to view every single dollar as having this critical choice attached to it.
Spend now or grow later.
Pretty much. Is this dollar for immediate, temporary pleasure, that coffee, that streaming subscription you don't use, another impulse buy online, or is it being put away? Is it being placed into a container, an account that will allow it to compound and multiply over time?
And it's not one big decision, is it? It's thousands of tiny ones.
Thousands of them, every day. Reinforcing the belief deep down that your future self, the one who benefits from that compounding, is actually more important than your present desire right now.
That psychological commitment, that proof to yourself, that's the real value of the $10, maybe even more than the money itself.
I think so. It's not just the sum, it's the evidence that you can make difficult choices repeatedly. And that discipline, it immediately translates into that feeling we talked about earlier, breathing room.
Yeah.
Money at this level, even just $10,000. It represents a kind of robust stability, even if it feels small in the grand scheme of things.
Let's make that concrete. Can we use an example, like one of those minor emergencies that always seem to pop up?
Okay, yeah. Think about a sudden trip to the dentist that's going to cost, say, $1,500. Or the car's transmission goes out and needs a $2,500 repair. Or, the roof starts leaking after a storm.
Just that happen.
Things that happen to everyone. Now, for someone who's truly stuck paycheck to paycheck, maybe with no savings, even a $1,500 or $2,000 unexpected expense is catastrophic.
It throws everything off.
Completely. It often means going into high interest debt, maybe using a credit card they can't pay off, and that destroys months, sometimes years, of trying to get ahead. It puts them right into panic mode.
Yeah, and that stress, it bleeds into everything, doesn't it? Sleep, relationships, how you perform at work.
Absolutely. But now imagine you have that $10,000 safety net secured, that same event, that $2,000 bill. It transforms. It goes from being a full-blown crisis to just being an annoyance.
Right. Still annoying, but manageable.
You write the check, you fix the car, you deal with the leak, and then you just systematically replenish that fund over the next few months. The whole inner narrative shifts. It goes from, oh my God, I'm so fragile, I'm at the mercy of life's random events, to something much calmer.
Like, okay, I'm stable. I can handle this stuff without panicking.
Exactly. I can handle life. That reduction in just pervasive chronic stress, that alone is an incredibly valuable return on investing the time and effort to get that first $10K.
But, okay, here's the potential downside, right?
Yeah.
That very stability, that feeling of, I can handle this, it can breed the first big trap.
You nailed it. Complacency. It's perhaps the most common financial trap we see in the source material at this stage.
So people hit the $10,000, they feel that breathing room, that reduced stress.
And they think, okay, done, mission accomplished. They treat the $10K as the finish line, not the starting line.
They stop pushing so hard. Loosen the budget a bit.
Exactly. They just sort of maintain that $10K buffer. They stop the intense saving habits.
But hang on. If someone really grinded maybe for 3 years to get that $10K and they finally feel safe, isn't it natural to ease up a bit? How do you justify keeping up that same harsh level of discipline? What about burnout? The sources must mention that risk.
Oh, that's a really crucial point. And yes, the risk of burnout is absolutely real. You can't maintain peak intensity forever. That's why the strategy needs to shift slightly, not necessarily the habit.
Okay, explain that distinction.
You don't need to maintain the absolute maximum intensity of saving you used during the initial push. Maybe you're saving 25% of your income, cutting everything to the bone. You might dial that back to a sustainable 15% or 20%. But the habit of consistently saving, of living below your means, that needs to stay.
So the system remains, even if the pressure valve is released a tiny bit.
Precisely. Complacency is a trap because $10,000, while providing breathing room, is still fundamentally fragile.
Right. Inflation eats away at it constantly.
Constantly. And if you face a genuinely large emergency like losing your job for 6 months or a major medical issue, that $10K buffer can vanish almost instantly. It proves you have discipline, yes, but it is absolutely not true financial independence. Not even close.
Okay. So the transition required here, it has to be pretty deliberate. You need to shift the mindset away from just survival.
Towards growth.
Yeah.
That's the key pivot. That $10,000 cannot just sit there passively in a standard savings account earning next to nothing. It has to become what the expert literature often calls seed capital.
Seed capital. I like that.
It's the initial proof point, right? You proved you can control money. Now, that money has to be deployed strategically to start making more money for you.
So the entire calculus changes at this point. The main question isn't just how do I cut costs anymore.
No, the primary question transitions. It shifts from how do I cut costs to save an extra $500 this month, which is defensive, to something more offensive. How do I increase my income by $5,000 this year?
Ah, okay. So it's less about pinching pennies and more about increasing the overall flow.
Exactly. The focus shifts from that defensive posture of minimizing loss to an offensive posture of maximizing opportunity.
And that $10K, that seed capital, that's your first real source of leverage for doing that.
It absolutely is. Maybe you use a small portion of it carefully to invest in yourself. Get a professional certification that boosts your salary, take some specialized training, maybe even test out a really small, low-risk side business idea you've had.
So you're using the capital to take slightly calculated risks, but aim squarely at increasing your future earning potential.
That's the smart play at this transition point. Those who really master this stage, they understand they're building momentum. They don't get completely derailed and circle back to square one every time life throws a curveball.
They just draw down slightly on their reserves.
Replenish them quickly, and critically, they maintain their focus on increasing their income and their investment contribution rate. They're already thinking ahead, preparing themselves mentally and financially for the much bigger exponential challenge of the next stage.
Okay, so stage one was proving discipline. Now, the leap from $10,000 to $100,000,
Yeah.
this feels like where the rules of the game just fundamentally change.
Oh, completely.
We're calling this the growth and skill stage. And it feels like it's not just 10 times harder numerically, it requires like 10 times the strategic intelligence.
You'd think that's fair. You've proven you can save consistently. Now you have to prove you can actually multiply that money.
The jump then from 5 figures to 6 figures, you mentioned earlier, it's a huge psychological shift.
Mhm.
Why does $100,000 feel so vastly different in practice compared to $10,000?
It's because this is the real inflection point. This is where the sheer mathematics of compounding and also how you allocate your assets starts to matter dramatically, really dramatically.
Okay, let's try and make that concrete again. Go beyond just saying 10% is more on a $100K. How does it feel different in terms of where the growth comes from?
All right, think about it this way. At $10,000, your personal savings rate, just how much cash you physically set aside from your salary each month, that drives maybe 90%, even 95% of your growth.
Right. Investment returns on 10K are nice, but small.
Exactly. If you save $5,000 a year, it takes you roughly 2 years to hit $10, maybe a bit less with some small return. Your effort is almost everything.
But at $100,000,
Now it starts to shift. Once you hit $100,000, the investment returns themselves start to become significant enough to actually rival your personal contributions.
okay. So the money itself starts doing some heavy lifting.
That's it. Like the source material pointed out, let's use that modest 10% return again. On $100,000, that generates $10,000 in a year, passively.
That's significant. For most people, earning an extra $10,000 takes months of actual work.
Months of focused saving, yeah. And here, it's potentially achieved without you lifting another finger, just by having the capital deployed correctly.
Hmm.
That is the moment, psychologically, where the money starts to feel like it's an employee working for you 24/7.
Rather than just being a pile of cash you earn through sweat.
Exactly. And seeing that visible growth, watching $10,000 appear seemingly out of nowhere from your investments, that is incredibly motivating. It validates all those previous years of intense discipline it took to get there.
Okay, but getting to the $100 K,
Yeah.
you can't just do that by cutting expenses anymore, right? There's a limit to how much you can cut.
Absolutely not. You can optimize your budget down to the bare bones, but your income always remains the ultimate ceiling on your savings rate. Therefore, this stage, getting from 10K to $100 K, almost mandates a serious shift towards acquiring higher income skills.
So it's not just saving, it's earning more,
Yeah.
actively.
Actively earning more. This means making strategic career moves, maybe negotiating much harder for better compensation. Perhaps developing a professional niche or specialization that commands a premium salary or rate. You have to increase the top line.
And alongside earning more, there's the skill part of this stage. It's not just about having the money, it's about knowing what to do with it.
Precisely. This stage demands skill in allocation and risk management. At $10 K, your main focus was liquidity, right? You needed that cash easily accessible for emergencies.
Yeah, safety first.
But at $100 K, the strategy has to shift. You need to start moving a significant portion of that money into growth vehicles. This requires actually learning about things like index funds, ETFs, understanding diversification.
Not just picking random stocks.
Definitely not. And critically, understanding how to properly utilize tax-advantaged accounts. Things like your IRA, your 401k, or equivalent. Using those tools correctly can dramatically accelerate growth because of the tax benefits. That's a skill.
Okay, so the mindset transformation here, it moves from reactive, like, what if the tire goes flat?
To proactive planning, yeah. At $10 K, you were mostly worried about those near-term emergencies. At $100 K, you start thinking 5, 10, even 15 years out. The core questions you ask yourself evolve.
From how do I survive the month to
How should I structure my portfolio for optimal long-term growth? And also, how do I make sure I don't lose momentum during the inevitable market downturns? You start thinking about resilience.
This brings up a psychological hurdle, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You mentioned skill, but a lot of people get scared here. Suddenly, you have a significant sum, $100,000, and you feel this immense pressure to make complex investment decisions you don't fully understand.
Imposter syndrome hits hard.
Yeah, or just the fear of complexity. You're terrified of making a mistake and watching that hard-won six-figures shrink.
And that fear leads directly into what we can call trap one of the $100 case stage, analysis paralysis.
Freezing up.
Totally freezing up. People keep way too much money overly liquid. It just sits there in cash or in super low yield savings accounts, maybe making 0.5% interest. Why? Because the fear of losing 10% in a market dip feels far, far greater than the potential motivation to earn 10% over the long run.
So they mastered the discipline of saving, but they failed to develop the necessary investment skill or risk tolerance.
Exactly, they stall out. And then there's track two, the absolute classic pitfall at this stage.
Let me guess. Lifestyle creep again, but supercharged.
Supercharged is a good word for it. Premature comfort and lifestyle creep. You finally see that $100,000 number in your account. You feel successful, accomplished, and you immediately want to reward yourself. Buy the bigger house, the nicer car, take those expensive vacations that you feel reflect your new status.
And the sources warn against this strongly.
Very strongly. They highlight that this is often a fatal move for reaching the next stage, the $1 million mark. Think about it. If your income has increased, great. But if you immediately inflate your fixed costs, a bigger mortgage payment every month, an expensive car lease payment, you essentially neutralize the compounding power you just worked so hard to unlock.
Right. If your monthly spending jumps by, say, $1,500.
That's $18,000 a year that isn't going into your investments anymore. It's gone. You might still be increasing your net worth slowly if your income grew enough, but your burn rate on that progress has dramatically slowed down the journey to $1 million. You've capped your potential.
So how do you walk that line then? Because surely when your income goes up and you hit 100K, there must be some legitimate reasons to increase spending slightly. Maybe to buy back some time or invest in better health, things that aren't just pure luxury.
That's where skill and systems need to replace pure brute force discipline. It becomes about building automated financial systems that enforce the growth habit while still allowing for some selective value-driven spending increases.
Okay, so the skill is knowing the difference.
Yes, the skill is recognizing the difference between buying a luxury item that just depreciates and makes you feel good temporarily,
Yeah.
trap, versus, say, buying a premium service like house cleaning or meal prep that frees up 10 hours of your week, allowing you to focus on higher earning activities or skill development leverage. One slows you down, the other potentially speeds you up.
So the strategy itself needs to become institutionalized within your own finances.
That's a great way to put it. You move beyond just manually tracking a budget every month. You set up automatic investment contributions that happen without you thinking. Automated debt payments if you still have any low interest debt like a mortgage. Maybe annual portfolio rebalancing becomes a calendar event.
So you're not relying on sheer willpower every single day anymore.
Exactly. You're relying on robust, sustainable systems that maintain your momentum almost on autopilot.
And does this systemic thinking also help manage that fear of market risk we talked about?
It absolutely does. At the $100K level, you really start developing and understanding your personal risk tolerance profile. You hopefully move past reacting to the scary daily headlines and start focusing on long-term historical data.
You learn to differentiate between short-term noise and long-term signal.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You understand, okay, the money I might need in the next 5 years, that needs to stay relatively safe, maybe in bonds or high-yield savings. But the money I won't need for 20 or 30 years, that must be invested for growth, accepting the inevitable volatility along the way. That's part of the skill development.
And the time frame for this, the sources suggest getting from $10 to $100 K. It's not overnight.
No, typically they suggest it often takes somewhere between 3 to 5 years of really focused, consistent effort, sometimes longer depending on income and market returns.
So that requires immense patience. It's not glamorous work month to month.
It's the opposite of glamorous. It's the consistent, unsexy dedication to systematically increasing both your contribution rate by earning more and your investment return through smart systemic allocation. Nailing the stage is what dictates success, and it sets that crucial foundation for the final, really massive leap.
Okay, we saved, we disciplined ourselves, then we skilled up, allocated smartly, and hopefully avoided the big traps at $100 K. Now we face the Mount Everest, the $1 million milestone.
The big one.
The sources say this is often the longest part of the journey, the hardest in many ways, but also the most fundamentally rewarding if you get there. This stage is defined by vision and system.
And the challenge here, at the $1 million level, it's utterly distinct from the previous two. You've already proven you can achieve growth through your own direct effort and skill development. The challenge now is different. It's about achieving scale.
Scale beyond your own time.
Exactly. You must scale your wealth creation mechanisms beyond the input of your own personal time or your salary from a job. If you are still primarily trading your hours for dollars, even a high salary, $1 million will start to feel like a ceiling, not a launch pad to true wealth.
The physics of money changes again here, doesn't it? You mentioned the compounding earlier.
It becomes incredibly powerful. At $1 million, your money transforms. It goes from being just a safety net or even just a growth portfolio into potentially a true self-sustaining wealth engine.
Let's revisit that 10% return example because it really lands differently here.
Okay, that same arguably modest 10% average annual return. Applied to a $1 million portfolio, that's $100,000 generated passively in a single year.
Wow, just passively.
Passively. Now think about that number. $100,000 a year. That return alone can comfortably cover or even exceed the entire annual lifestyle costs for many families in many parts of the country.
Without touching the principal.
Without touching the $1 million principal. That is the definition of financial leverage, creating real, tangible freedom. The capital itself is now powerful enough to produce an income stream that competes directly with, or maybe even surpasses, the income you earn actively from working a job.
So the mindset, the core questions you ask yourself, they have to shift completely again. If $10K was how do I save, and $100K was how do I invest better and earn more? What's the defining question at the $1 million stage?
The $1 million question becomes, how do I build and acquire assets that produce income on their own, regardless of my direct daily effort?
Assets, not just savings or investments in the market.
Assets that generate cash flow. This is where the concept of ownership becomes absolutely paramount.
Right.
You need to start shifting your focus, potentially, from purely saving into public market instruments like stocks and bonds, towards acquiring actual entities.
What kind of entities?
Things like owning businesses, perhaps building scalable intellectual property, or assembling diversified real estate portfolios. You need systems that are generating cash flow passively or semi-passively, requiring only your strategic oversight, not your daily grind.
Let's elaborate on what those systems might look like, because this feels like where it gets more complex than just buying an index fund. When we talk about real estate portfolios at this level, you're probably not talking about just buying one rental house and fixing toilets yourself anymore.
Definitely not. That might be how you start at the $100K level, but to scale to $1 and beyond, you're typically transitioning into more passive or semi-passive management structures. Meaning leveraging your capital to enter, say, sophisticated real estate syndications where you're a limited partner, or investing in private real estate funds that own and manage dozens or hundreds of properties. Or perhaps acquiring small, profitable businesses that already have proven operational teams and systems in place.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So the $1 million acts as an entry ticket. It gives you access to these more structured, maybe higher barrier to entry investments that weren't feasible with less capital.
That's often the case. Access becomes available, but that implies a whole new level of skill is needed too, right?
It sounds like it. Moving from just managing your Vanguard account to evaluating real estate syndications or acquiring a business, that requires a different kind of due diligence, a different kind of analysis.
Absolutely. And it's not just investment analysis. The $1 million milestone requires you to become much more sophisticated about tax strategy. This is huge.
How so?
At $10, maybe you worry about getting your tax return filed correctly. At $1 million, you need to worry about optimizing your entire financial structure for tax efficiency.
So using legal tools.
Yes. Setting up LLCs for liability protection and potentially pass-through taxation. Maybe establishing trusts for asset protection or estate planning down the line. Actively managing the difference between realizing capital gains versus generating ordinary income streams because they're taxed very differently. The focus shifts massively from just earning money to maximizing the net amount of money you actually get to keep after taxes.
Okay, this level of system building, tax strategy, asset acquisition, it all feeds into the ultimate feeling this stage is supposed to provide, which you called freedom.
Right. And it's a specific kind of freedom. It's not just comfort, like having enough money not to worry. It's true optionality.
Meaning you have real choices.
Real choices. When your assets are reliably producing enough income to cover your living expenses, maybe even exceed them, you genuinely no longer need to say yes to a particular job or a client or a project solely for the paycheck.
That's a powerful position to be in.
It's incredibly powerful. That freedom allows you to start making choices based much more on your deeply held personal values rather than just financial necessity. Maybe you decide to take on more philanthropic work. Maybe you dedicate significant time to mentoring younger people. Maybe you just want to spend way more quality time with your family.
So this level of wealth, the $1 M mark, it essentially buys you back your time.
Which is the ultimate non-renewable resource, right?
Mhm.
It shifts your life's trajectory from being dictated primarily by financial necessity to being potentially dictated by your chosen purpose. That, according to the sources, is the fundamental qualitative difference between being financially comfortable, which a $100 K might provide, and being truly wealthy, $1 potentially enables.
Okay. Now, despite the immense power and freedom this stage offers, it must have its own set of traps, especially given the time frame.
Oh, absolutely. And they are significant. As you said, the journey from 100K to $1 million for most people relying on earning, saving, and investing often takes a decade, maybe
Mhm.
more. That immense time frame itself triggers trap one, impatience.
People just get restless after that long.
Incredibly restless. They look at those compounding return charts and see how the growth really starts to explode in, say, years 8 through 12 of consistent investing. And they want to somehow fast forward to that exponential part now.
So they start taking stupid risks.
They start chasing risky shortcuts. Maybe they start speculating heavily on individual meme stocks, or they jump into highly volatile, trend-driven investments like crypto without fully understanding it, or they get lured into get-rich-quick schemes.
And they often end up losing a big chunk of that hard-earned $100K foundation.
Precisely. They lose massive chunks of their progress. The very strategy that was working slow, steady, systematic asset accumulation gets abandoned in favor of what amounts to gambling, driven purely by impatience.
Okay, that's a big one. What's a second major trap, especially given all the complexity we just discussed? Managing assets, taxes, systems.
Burnout. Pure and simple burnout. Actually managing $1 million net worth effectively, doing the due diligence to acquire new assets, overseeing the legal and tax structures. It requires significant cognitive energy and attention.
It's not entirely passive, even if the income is.
Not at all. There's still strategic work involved. And if you haven't built solid systems, if you haven't learned to delegate non-essential tasks effectively, maybe hiring advisors, property managers, etc., you can absolutely exhaust yourself. You burn out right before that truly magical phase of compounding really kicks into high gear.
Giving up just before the finish line, essentially.
Or just becoming too tired to manage it optimally, letting things slide. So, to counteract both that killer impatience and the risk of burnout, the ultimate requirement for this stage, the thing you absolutely must cultivate, is vision.
Long-term vision.
Crystal clear, long-term vision. You have to possess the ability to see past the next year, even the next 5 years, and commit wholeheartedly to a sustained strategy for a decade or more. And you need the discipline derived from that vision to continue investing strategically, continue managing the system even when the market is going down, or the growth feels painfully slow in the middle years.
It sounds like you can't just use the same tools that got you here. The frugal discipline that conquered the $10K stage won't get you to $1 Rebel.
It won't.
Nor will just focusing on aggressive career growth like in the $100K stage, though that still helps.
That helps, but it's not sufficient. The final crime, that journey to $1 million and beyond, it requires a different version of you. You have to evolve into becoming a strategic architect of your own wealth.
Someone who understands leverage, builds robust systems, and, maybe most critically, grasps the profound power of ownership and maintains that unwavering long-term vision.
It's really a complete character arc, isn't it? The journey itself, if done right, ensures that by the time you actually achieve that $1 million milestone, you have likely developed all three essential facets of financial mastery: the initial discipline, the intermediate strategic skill, and finally, the overarching systemic vision. Outro.
Wow. Okay, so this deep dive into the rule of three, it really confirms a crucial finding, I think. Financial growth, wealth building, It is emphatically not linear.
Not at all.
It really requires constant adaptation. Each successive stage demands a completely new set of behaviors, skills, and strategies from you. You have to evolve.
Let's maybe synthesize those three crucial proofs one last time just to make it crystal clear for you, the listener. That first milestone, $10,000, hitting that proves you can successfully control money. That's the fundamental test of your personal discipline and your consistency.
Right. Then, the second milestone, reaching $100,000, that proves you can effectively grow money. That's the test of your strategic skill and allocation, managing risk tolerance, and actively generating higher income.
And finally, that third milestone, achieving $1 million. That proves you can build and manage large-scale systems that generate wealth, often without your direct hourly input. That is the definitive test of your long-term vision and your patience.
And the warning is clear. If you try to use, say, the super frugal, cost-cutting mindset that conquered the $10K milestone when you're trying to tackle the challenges of the $1 million stage, you're just going to hit a wall of frustration and stagnation.
You absolutely will. Each phase is designed almost to sharpen a different part of your financial character. It demands that you evolve your relationship with money from being its servant initially to becoming its master, and then finally to becoming its architect.
That's a powerful progression. Servant, master, architect.
And that profound shift, that evolution, leads us right into our final provocative thought for you to maybe chew on after this deep dive.
Okay, let's hear it.
Knowing what we've discussed, knowing that the move from $10 to $100K often demands years of concentrated effort, and that the subsequent journey to $1 million requires a sustained commitment, likely spanning a decade or even more, the really pressing question becomes, how are you right now currently cultivating the necessary long-term vision that can actually sustain you across that required decade or more?
That's a tough one.
And maybe more practically, what passive automated systems are you putting in place right now, today, regardless of which stage you're in, to help future-proof that essential long-term commitment against that incredibly destructive and almost inevitable trap of impatience?
That's something to really reflect on. What systems are protecting your future self from your present self's impatience?
Exactly.
Lots to think about there. Reflect on your current stage, the mindset it requires, and maybe start thinking about the shift needed to tackle the next one. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive into the architecture of wealth growth.